You have spoken in the past, and obviously it's a signal policy of yours about the phased manufacturing program. Do you see any tension between India pursuing that program and the potential for backlash of others pursuing similar programs, or is it that this is a leveling of the playing field, or is it just India's big and should act like a big player?
I don't think there's a one-point answer for this. It's going to have to be calibrated to include all these challenges, even as you want to incentivize India's own production. There can always be some collateral, but it has to be very smartly tailored to make sure that India's unique demands can be met by your own manufacturing. But at the same time, you need to get your raw materials and intermediaries, which otherwise you do not have. So it's not as if you're going to be so blindfolded to see that you'll just take a decision and it will have no impact whatsoever outside. It can't be so. It will have impact. We'll have to assess each for itself and take a call. But however, I don't think India is alone in doing this, particularly after, let's say, the global view of China, after, let's say, the pandemic, after also this changing perspective of what indeed is globalization, how far globalization, to what extent globalization. So when all these questions are happening and being discussed all over the world, India cannot be in isolation. So if that's going to, the discussions elsewhere are going to have some impact, so will we have in India as well. So it indicates to a dynamic position globally on globalization itself, and also looking at how just tariff is not going to be one way of controlling or preserving your capacities in manufacturing. So it is a strand, I suppose, in a larger debate of how the global trade will have to happen.
Where do you see any prospect for multilateral rounds being useful? In addition, with RCEP and CPTPP and areas adjoining yours, are there agreements that India wishes to pursue at this time in terms of trade? Or is it, we'll take it as it comes and negotiate?
No, I think India has shown very clearly its initiative is working out well in pursuing with countries and agreeing to have FTAs with them. So free trade agreements are being signed, in fact, far speedily nowadays. We've just concluded one with Australia. We've concluded earlier one with the UAE, Mauritius, and as it is, we've had agreements with ASEAN, free trade agreements both in goods and services with ASEAN. We have had with Korea, with Japan. So free trade agreements have bilaterally or with multilateral groups been the route which India has had till before 2014, and now between 2019 and today we've had at least 3 major agreements signed. So we shall proceed in that route also with the United Kingdom, with the European Union and with Canada. All the 3 are happening now. As we speak, the negotiations are going on. So we shall go in those preferential routes. Plurilateral, I'm not sure where it's going to begin, when it's going to begin.
I'm sorry to push further, but on the multilateral front, is there anything you would like to see agreed at the WTO, or not really?
Well, I would love WTO to be a lot more progressive, a lot more listening to all countries, to be fair to all members. I've fortunately or unfortunately spent some time with the WTO in my capacity as a Commerce Minister of India between 2014 and 17. No, it has to give more space to hear voices of countries which have something different to say. And not just hear, but also somewhat heed. Because today's message for the WTO should be to have greater openness. So when countries will have to speak at the WTO, it has to be on very many issues on which decision has not happened for over decades. Since 98 to today, hasn't the electronic transmission business, transaction business, trading business evolved? Shouldn't there be a change in the policy of WTO in terms of that their moratorium should continue? A moratorium in 98 and a moratorium today on electronics when the world has moved so much on the digital. It is that which I like to question. It's not to say that, we have to reverse the benefits of globalization. It is more to say, make globalization more transparent.
Is the mutual interest in reducing the power of China enough to keep these economic arrangements going, or is there something else there?
However much we would think that supply chains will have to be moved out of China, it may not be the case. China and others could be the possible realistic solution. So even as China is opening up back again after the zero tolerance and everything else, I would still think there would be a lot of investment interests and also manufacturing interests going back to China or restoring themselves in China. So it will be unrealistic to think everything is going to get out of China. It just sends the very strong message which I would think the world didn't notice earlier or didn't want to choose earlier. And that is spreading your resource basket or supply chain is a far more prudent way of continuing in business, however much the cost complications make it difficult in other places and the cost benefit makes it possible to concentrate in one jurisdiction.
What do you see as the successes, given the fact that there's obviously a division in the group due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine? And what do you hope your successors in the next couple of years can take forward in the G20?
So India, being the president of G20 at this challenging time itself, for me is a great opportunity for India to prove and to work towards bringing all countries together on substantive issues. There still can be one or two on which you're not able to get consensus. And one of it is the debt distress which is going on among countries which we thought till recently were middle-income countries. Not to speak of the low-income countries, which are definitely facing critical challenges. But the rate of collapse of the middle-income countries, one or two of them stand out as examples because of the debt distress needs to be addressed and addressed in time. And we've seen so many collapses, such shocking developments in the crypto world. Even that requires the G20 to give its time. We are pressing with some kind of a proposal. The IMF is giving a paper, the FSB is giving a paper. Again, India presidency taking that on board and taking up the cause of a common framework with which all countries can deal with this matter.